I never thought my marriage would end like this. Of course, no one gets married expecting it to fall apart, but I really believed that Evan and I were different. I gave everything to him, to our home, to our future together. I did it all. I managed the bills, kept the house clean, made sure our life ran smoothly. While he was focused on climbing the career ladder, I was there in the background making sure everything worked. And for years, I thought that was enough. I was wrong. It wasn't some big fight. It wasn't some shocking betrayal. It was the coldness, the indifference. The way he walked through the door that night, looked me in the eyes, and just discarded our life together like an expired contract. He had found someone more aligned with his ambitions. Those were his exact words, as if I had never been part of anything, as if everything I had done had been a waste. But the worst part? The look of disdain when he told me I had no future, that I was just a housewife, that I would never do anything that really mattered. That night, after he left, I sat on the kitchen floor for hours, staring at a glass of water I didn't even remember getting. My whole world felt empty. I kept wondering how I got here. At what point had I become invisible even to the man I loved? The days that followed were a blur of tears and silence. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to eat. My phone kept ringing, but I ignored it. Friends tried to cheer me up, told me he was an idiot, that I deserved better. But deep down, a part of me believed everything he had said. And then, after weeks of feeling like this, a thought crept in. What if I proved him wrong? Not for revenge. Not for him. For me. Because for the first time in my life, I realized I had no idea who I really was. And maybe it was time to find out. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have extra money or any experience in the business world. All I had was this emptiness inside me and a desperate need to fill it with something that made me feel real again. I started small. I'd always loved decorating spaces, turning lifeless corners into something warm and beautiful. Before the divorce, I did it without thinking much, rearranging furniture, restoring old pieces, making little handmade decorations for the house. It was a hobby, something I enjoyed but never took seriously. This time I did. I grabbed an old side table that had been sitting in the basement and spent an entire day restoring it. I sanded it, painted it, added small gold details by hand. When I was done, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: pride. I posted a picture on Instagram. I wasn't expecting anything more than a few likes from friends when someone commented asking if I was selling it. Despite my hesitation, I said yes. And that's how it started. Over the next few days, I went through my house, searching for anything I could transform. I made handcrafted candles, custom pillows, small decorative pieces. I posted everything online, without any big expectations. But then, the posts started gaining traction. People I didn't know began following my account. Orders started coming in. Small at first, but steady. And suddenly, what had been just a hobby turned into a business. At first, it was hard. I knew nothing about pricing, marketing, or logistics. I made a lot of mistakes. I sold things so cheap that I barely covered my costs. But with every mistake, I learned. I spent nights watching videos on entrepreneurship, studying how to build a brand, how to reach more people. And then one of my posts went viral. It was a photo of a space I had redecorated by myself. A before and after. Nothing fancy, but the caption told my story. A newly divorced woman, rebuilding her life through the thing she knew best. Within days, my inbox was full. People were sharing their own stories of starting over. Women who had gone through difficult divorces, who had been underestimated, who felt like they had lost everything. And then, something became very clear to me: I wasn't alone. Things started changing faster than I ever expected. What used to be a small project to keep me busy turned into something so much bigger. My Instagram was growing every day, with people from all over the country praising my work, asking if I took custom orders, looking for decorating tips. At first, I did everything by myself: refurbishing furniture, creating handmade pieces, packing orders, answering messages. It was exhausting, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was building something of my own. Then, one day, a well-known influencer reposted my work, and that's when everything blew up. The website I had hastily put together to sell my products crashed from too much traffic. My inbox exploded. Stores started reaching out, asking if I could supply in bulk. The pace was insane, but I couldn't afford to stop. With the money from my first sales, I rented a small studio, hired an assistant, started investing in high-quality materials, refining my style, understanding what truly made my creations special. Slowly, my brand stopped being just an Instagram page and became something real, something people actually wanted. Recognition came fast. Invitations to design events, interviews for major magazines, collaboration offers from well-known brands. I, who had once been discarded as if I had no worth, was now seeing my name circulate among the biggest names in the industry. And then came the moment that made me realize just how far I had come. I walked into a bookstore and, on the magazine rack, there it was on issue, dedicated to the latest home decor trends. And on the cover, in bold letters, was my name. I stood there for a long time, holding the magazine in my hands, feeling a lump in my throat. I thought about all the nights I cried, all the times I doubted myself, all the cruel things Evan said before walking out the door and leaving me behind. He was wrong. I wasn't just a housewife. I was a woman who rebuilt her life from nothing. And the best part? He didn't even know it yet. But it wouldn't be long before he found out. The first time I saw his name again was in an email. It was an ordinary afternoon, packed with meetings and tight deadlines. Between one meeting and another, I sat down to check my messages, and in the middle of budget requests and partnership proposals, there it was, Evan Parker. For a moment, the world around me seemed to slow down. I read his name over and over, as if I might be mistaken, as if it were just a coincidence. But it wasn't. The message was brief. He said he was interested in an opportunity at the company, as if he were just another applicant. Nothing suggested that he knew who was on the other side. My first reaction was to laugh, a dry, involuntary, almost disbelieving laugh. The same man who dismissed me, who doubted my worth, now wanted a place in what I had built. The irony was almost comical. But as the minutes passed and the initial surprise faded, I realized it wasn't funny. It was tragic and predictable. I had already heard, from passing comments, that his marriage to the so-called successful woman hadn't lasted long. Financial troubles, bad investments, a lifestyle that crumbled without the foundation he thought he had. His wife left him without looking back. And now he was jobless, broke, and apparently lacking enough pride to keep from reaching out to me. For a moment, a part of me wondered what he expected to find. Maybe he thought I was still the woman he left behind, waiting for any scraps of attention. Maybe he thought I'd feel sorry for him, that I'd be generous. But that woman didn't exist anymore. I closed the email without replying. In the following days, he tried other ways to reach me. Another email, then a private message on Instagram, then a formal request through the company's HR department. His persistence spoke volumes. I could simply ignore him forever. I could delete the messages and move on with my life without looking back. But deep down, I knew a day like this would come. And maybe, after everything, it was worth looking Evan in the eyes one more time for him. But for me, that morning when I walked into the office, I had already made my decision. The meeting was set. When the door opened and he walked in, I couldn't hide my shock. The man standing in front of me didn't look like the Evan I once knew. He looked smaller. The suit that used to fit him perfectly now hung a little loose. The dark circles under his eyes hinted at sleepless nights. The confident, superior attitude that once made me feel insignificant now seemed like a cracked mask. He recognized me instantly. The flush on his face confirmed it. The silence between us was heavy, filled with everything that had never been said. I saw the exact moment in his eyes when he realized what had happened. The name on my office door, the company logo he expected to belong to anyone but me, the weight of the truth crushing his arrogance. He didn't need to say a word, I already knew. He never thought I'd make it this far. The decision had been made long before he even stepped into the room, but I let him sit. I wanted to see the weight of reality settle on his shoulders. The irony of the situation was so blatant it was almost funny. He tried to pull himself together, keeping his posture straight, choosing his words carefully. His voice carried something I had never heard before: humility. I watched as he talked about his experience, his skills, his past projects. Empty words trying to cover up the obvious. He was here because he had no other options. For a brief moment, a small part of me wondered if I should feel sorry for him. Maybe once I would have, but not now. Now I understood that some people only learn when they lose everything. So I let him finish. Let him spill every weak attempt at proving he deserved the job. And when silence finally settled between us, I took a deep breath and gave him the answer he feared the most. There was no place for him in the company. And then, he stood up. No argument, no dignity, just a broken man walking out through the same door he once left, convinced I would never amount to anything. But now I was someone. And he was just another forgotten name in the rejection pile. Now I was in control of my own story. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to get more stories like this.